Dracula. Just hearing the name brings a shiver down your spine, doesn't it? We picture a tall, dark figure, a cape swirling around him, with piercing eyes and sharp fangs. He's the ultimate monster, a vampire who lives forever by drinking the blood of the living, lurking in a shadowy castle hidden away in the mountains. He's one of the most iconic and terrifying figures in all of fiction. But have you ever stopped to wonder, was Dracula real? The answer, surprisingly, is yes and no. It's a story where history and horror twist together, creating a legend that has terrified us for generations. The legend of the vampire Dracula is deeply rooted in a real historical person, Vlad III, a 15th century prince who ruled over a region in Eastern Europe called Wallachia, which is part of modern-day Romania. Now, Vlad wasn't a vampire. He didn't have fangs, he didn't turn into a bat, and he didn't sleep in a coffin. He was a ruler, a military leader, and a fierce defender of his homeland against the invading Ottoman Empire. But he wasn't just known for his leadership, he was infamous for his brutality. His methods were so cruel that they earned him a chilling nickname, Vlad the Impaler. You see, Vlad's favorite method of punishment was impalement. He would have his enemies, criminals, and anyone he saw as a threat publicly executed by being impaled on long, sharp stakes. Imagine rows upon rows of these stakes, a gruesome forest of bodies left on display for all to see. It is estimated that he was responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of people this way. This wasn't just random violence, it was a calculated strategy. Vlad used terror as a weapon of psychological warfare. He wanted to send a crystal clear message to his enemies and to his own people: do not cross me. The fear he inspired was so potent that it became his greatest defense. Stories of his cruelty spread like wildfire across Europe. Printers and storytellers, especially in Germany, began publishing pamphlets about the bloodthirsty Prince of Wallachia. With each retelling, the stories became more embellished, more gruesome. The man, Vlad, slowly started to transform into a monster in the popular imagination. The historical facts blurred, and the lines between the ruler and a demonic figure began to fade. He was no longer just a cruel prince, he was becoming something more, something darker and less human. This is where the seed of the Dracula legend was planted. Fast forward a few centuries to the late 1800s, an Irish writer named Bram Stoker was researching Eastern European history and folklore for a new novel he was planning. He came across the stories of Vlad the Impaler. The name Dracula itself was particularly intriguing. Vlad's father was part of a knightly order called the Order of the Dragon, or Dracula in Romanian. So, Vlad became known as Dracula, which means son of the dragon. But in modern Romanian, Drac also means devil. The name itself carried a dual meaning of power and evil, which was perfect for a villain. Stoker didn't just use Vlad's history, he brilliantly wove together different threads of myth and anxiety. He took inspiration from existing vampire folklore from across Europe, tales of the undead who rise from their graves to prey on the living. He also tapped into the Victorian era's deep-seated fears. People were terrified of diseases spreading from foreign lands. They were fascinated by the supernatural, and they were grappling with new scientific ideas that challenged old beliefs. Stoker combined the historical terror of Vlad the Impaler, the folklore of vampires, and the anxieties of his time. He put them all into one character, placed him in a Gothic castle in the mysterious region of Transylvania, and in 1897, Dracula, the vampire we know and fear today, was born. So, the vampire Dracula, the immortal count who drinks blood, is pure fiction. He never existed, but the fear he represents, that's very real. The fear of tyrannical rulers who hold the power of life and death. The fear of death itself and what might come after. The fear of disease, of the unknown, of the darkness that lies just beyond the edges of our understanding. Dracula became a powerful symbol for all of these universal human fears. He is a monster made of our collective anxieties. Think about it. The character of Dracula allows us to confront these fears from a safe distance. We can experience the terror, the suspense, and the thrill, all while knowing that, at the end of the day, we can close the book or turn off the screen. The legend has endured for so long because it taps into something fundamental about the human condition. We are fascinated by the things that scare us. So, when we ask if Dracula was real, the answer is layered. The vampire monster. No, but the man whose brutal legacy inspired the myth. Absolutely yes. Vlad the Impaler was a real person, a ruler whose cruelty was so extreme that his story morphed into one of history's greatest horror legends. The Dracula we know is a perfect example of how history can become twisted and magnified by folklore and fear, creating a story far more powerful and enduring than the truth itself. The legend of Dracula begins where the history of Vlad ends, a dark shadow stretching from the 15th century right into our modern nightmares. History is filled with fascinating stories like this, where the line between myth and reality is beautifully blurred. If you enjoy uncovering the hidden truths behind the world's greatest legends and exploring the depths of history and human fear, make sure you subscribe to knowlyx.education. We have so many more stories to share with you. Thanks for watching. Dracula, the name alone sends a shiver down your spine, doesn't it? For centuries, he's been the undisputed king of nightmares, one of the most famous and terrifying monsters in human history. A creature of the night, a vampire, immortal, with a thirst for human blood, we picture him lurking in the shadows of a dark, imposing castle, a phantom preying on the living. But here asks the question that pulls us from fiction back to reality. Was Dracula ever real? The answer is, well, it's complicated. The truth is, the legend of Dracula, the blood-sucking vampire, is built upon the very real foundation of a historical figure. His name was Vlad III, Prince of Wallachia, a region in what is now modern-day Romania. He lived in the 15th century, a time of great conflict and turmoil in Eastern Europe. And while he wasn't a monster in the supernatural sense, he was a ruler who inspired immense fear. Vlad III earned a chilling nickname, Vlad the Impaler. This wasn't just a catchy title. It was a direct reference to his preferred method of punishment. His enemies, whether they were foreign invaders or internal political rivals, were often executed publicly by impalement. This wasn't just about punishment, it was about power and psychological warfare. Imagine seeing rows upon rows of impaled bodies outside a city's walls. This brutal spectacle was a deliberate strategy designed to send a crystal-clear message to anyone who dared to challenge his authority. Fear was his most effective weapon. As you can imagine, tales of Vlad's cruelty spread like wildfire across Europe. With each retelling, the stories became more embellished, more gruesome, and more fantastical. The historical man began to fade, and a monstrous legend started to take his place. He was depicted in pamphlets and woodcuts not just as a cruel ruler, but as a demonic figure, a devil in human form. The man was becoming a myth. Fast forward a few centuries to the late 1800s, an Irish writer named Bram Stoker was looking for inspiration for his next novel. He stumbled upon the dark and bloody history of Vlad the Impaler. The name itself, Dracula, which in Old Romanian could mean son of the dragon, was perfect. Stoker took this historical seed and watered it with the rich soil of European folklore. He blended ancient legends about the undead, the growing public fear of diseases that seemed to drain the life from their victims, and the Victorian fascination with the Gothic and the macabre. He fused the historical tyrant with the mythical vampire, and in 1897, the Dracula we know today was born. So, the vampire version of Dracula, the one who transforms into a bat and shuns the sunlight, was never real. He is a work of fiction, but the fear that created him. That was very, very real. People in the 15th century feared cruel rulers like Vlad. People in the 19th century feared mysterious illnesses and the unknown nature of death. Dracula became a powerful symbol, a vessel for all of these deep-seated human anxieties. He represents the fear of tyranny, the fear of death, and the fear of our own mortality. So, let's go back to our original question. Was Dracula real? The monster? No, the man whose terrifying legacy inspired the monster. Yes, absolutely. And in that fascinating space where history ends and legend begins, a timeless icon was created. The story of Dracula is a perfect example of how real-world events and human fears can be transformed into enduring myths that haunt our collective imagination for generations. What other myths and legends are rooted in real history? The world is full of them, hidden stories just waiting to be uncovered. If you enjoyed peeling back the layers of the Dracula myth, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the fascinating connections between history, folklore, and the things that scare us most. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.